Are you just only considering at the national level the teams, the GSS, which is very critical? We do agree, but where do you leave the CHPs that you know very well they are all over the country, Bwana Waziri? I give it to you, Senator Boni. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair.
I think, Madam Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Just allow us to contribute. They pick the questions and then they can respond now once, so that they can pick all the questions to be able to manage time.
That's the process. Senator Boni is on floor with his question. Proceed, Senator Boni.
Thank you, Chair. CS, I've heard you, and you're very persuasive. I'm happy that on your immediate right is my good old friend, Albert. Albert, we have worked with him, Mwendwa. From 2013, we've been in this room. And you know that at no stage have we been approached by the executive in the manner you're doing today, whereby you've made an executive decision which amounts to legislation, and you are asking the legislators to then adopt the executive decision as if it was legislation. In effect, what the legislator by this action is doing is you are amending the Division of Revenue Act of 2024, which is already law. You have no power to amend it at all. So we can do all these things and be friendly, look nice to each other because we are broad-based. We don't want anybody to appear to disagree. But the courts are waiting. They'll weigh their decision on the Division of Revenue Act of 2024 and say that what we have done is therefore illegal. Having said that, yes, you have convinced us that the challenges you have include under collection of revenue. That's fine. But as an old colleague of yours, I insist you should now about tax evasion. You know, there are serious taxpayers in this country who evade tax payment for many reasons, some of them unfortunately, including the impunity whereby they are aided by unscrupulous people at the Kenya Revenue Authority. Finally, the long and short, Minister, of all the issues spoken to by Senator for Migori and the Chair is that the non-discretionary obligations to the county governments have been occasioned by a change of policy in government. It is government's policy on housing, community health workers, the CBA they signed with doctors, the policy on NSSF, name it. So are you telling us that you want to advise that the government then reverses its decision on those policies so that we give county governments less money, they don't have that obligation? You revert the policy so that we say, okay, fine, these policies were well intended until the bill was withdrawn, but now that the finance bill was withdrawn, now that that's where we are, we want to rethink the policies. Then finally, and I'm glad just the other day you are representing the people of Suba. Why is it so easy to make a decision to slash funds for county governments, and you find it difficult to tell members of the National Assembly to equally slash CDF? Why? Isn't this legislative impunity, whereby we are saying, because we are legislators, we will protect that which is seen to be ours, and let that which is borne by governors to suffer the consequences of the hard decision? Finally, but not least, Minister, this is not part of this. I would love to hear what you have to say about what the courts have already said about CDF. CDF is 68 billion this year. The shortfall now, brought in because of these policy changes, is 61.2 billion, just matching. It means, therefore, if you agreed with the court's decision that CDF was unconstitutional, it means that you would be having the money to give the county government. So, as our new CS for Finance, do you want to agree with the courts that CDF is unconstitutional? Or do you still want to perpetuate that illegality? Of course, you are there, and with good reasons. When that decision was made, you tweaked the law and managed to survive. But do we want to continue that way? Thank you very much, Mr. CS.
Chair or Madam Vice Chair, this is Honorable Yonka. I would like to give my question.
Proceed, Senator Nyonka.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. CS, I hope you're listening to me.
Yes, he is.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I was not able to come, but I think I can still raise. I have two questions to ask. Number one, my interpretation of the law is that the time when we sat down and made a decision to increase the revenue that we are supposed to give to the county governments, we can road reverse ourselves, whichever argument the CS wants to make. The reason for that is very simple. Honorable Halwali has just said it. CS, I would like to beg you, my brother, because you understand the rules. I know how government fears members of parliament, because if their CTF is touched, they even start talking about impeachment. That money must be removed and taken where it is being ring-fenced to help the county governments. And our position is very simple. Please don't touch the money. We want to give our county governments 400 billion. We have enough money, and whatever that you are cutting, cut everywhere else and leave the counties. Why? The amount of money that the county governments are getting is 15%. The national government is left with 85%. So go take your 85 and take it out from there. Leave the counties alone. I would like to say, Madam Chair and the Chair, that I will vote against this bill, whatever you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nyonka. Chair, Honorable Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Allow me to first congratulate the CS for his new appointment, and also for sharing what he largely shared on behalf of the national government without much consideration to county governments. And over and above what has been shared by the honorable senators that are members of the committee, I would like the CS to really internalize what the committee members have shared with him, so that that reality informs, the advice or the position as the Treasury representing both levels of government should be taking. The issue of non-discretionary expenditure shared by the team amounts to 39.985, which is 100% outside the control of the county government. These are expenditures and costs that has come in after DORA was passed, the previous DORA of 2023-2024, and legislations that are passed by Parliament have necessitated that, as well as national government priority programs that was brought to county governments to adopt. The issues of housing levy deduction, 4.05 billion. Enhanced contribution to NSSF by law, 3.0 billion. Matching allocation to CAIBs for the 50% they are supposed to pay, 11.75 billion. Matching allocation to community health promoters, which is 50-50 between the two levels of government, 3.23 billion. Cost of maintenance and servicing of medical equipment, MES, which are in terrible shape right now because of excessive use, 5.86 billion. Annual wage increment in the IPPD system that does not negotiate with anyone, it comes to 6.95 billion. Dr. CBA, that was the national government has met the obligation, the county last year, the county government are picking the bill, 5.8 billion. This totals to 39.985 billion. And this does not include 5.5 inflationary cost provision that ought to have been included, which comes to almost 21 billion that we haven't even discussed. Now, Honorable CS, I want to refer to a few facts. One, the Finance Acts of 2023-2024 is the one at play that gave county governments 385.425 billion last financial year. Now, to suggest anything less than what will be allocated to county governments is as absurd as an employee salary being reduced, because counties will base their planning on the foreseeable, predictable, stable inflow of funds. Now, how they go back to reduce the expenditure from 385.425 will be a very difficult issue to even try and internalize. The other issue I want to say is that you have presented and you said we are allocating 24%. However, you are basing that 24% on the last audited and approved account. But if it is on the basis of projected revenues, you are allocating less than 15%, even it's 14.9% as required in law. There is no reason, Honorable CS, there is no reason more justified for the national government to borrow than support devolution in 47 counties where health services are provided, water service provision is done, issues of primary healthcare is primary education, lower primary education, ECD program is run. When you look at such expenditures, Honorable CS, and national government has borrowed over the years for flimsy reasons, to be very honest. When you look at supporting devolution in 47 county governments by borrowing 20 billion to be able to provide these services as required, is going to be the most justifiable reason for the government to take. Now, since county governments don't sit and there is no mouth talking for them, and the National Assembly unfortunately takes the path of where do we sign when an issue proposal comes from National Treasury or the government for that matter, then the reality of reasoning is left to the Senate to be able to rationalize. Because Senator Khalwale asked you, this non-discretionary expenditure, they came into play within the previous financial year after DORA was passed. It is an issue that can't be ignored. The question I want to pose is, how do you expect the county government to deal with these expenditures that have come into effect after the last DORA was passed? Over to you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Chair. I think because of time, I will just allow you to add up.
Yeah, just a very serious follow-up, because I don't like any misrepresentation, Honorable CS, that might look disingenuous, and especially because I'm seeing my brother Albert here, who we have been in this community for the last 2.5 years, as well as my brother Guyo here. Honorable CS, I don't know that you got a brief that the Equalization Fund has always been in arrears for perpetuity. to the extent that it appears disingenuous if you are going to indicate in this conversation about equitable share that you're going to put 8 billion in cohesion fund, and therefore it shows some kind of courteous increment in county government equitable share, when actually, first of all, that fund itself has been in arrears for perpetuity. And we've had a lot of conversation here with the previous years, and with my brother Guyo here, and as well as my brother Albert. And in the same spirit of what the chair said, when you're just looking at how the data is being compounded, the idea of basing on the previous approved revenue as well as this equalization fund, I think those two computations must be ignored in this conversation so we can have a genuine conversation to be able to help counties run.
Thank you so much. I think to be specific with what Senator Eddy is talking about.
Sorry, Madam Vice Chair, there is some issue, just what Senator Eddy has raised that I needed to bring to the attention of the CS. Honorable CS, there is an illegality happening within Treasury. The requirement of equalization fund, once appropriated, is supposed to be credited to equalization fund account. The previous equalization fund as appropriated is yet to be credited to equalization fund account, which is grave illegality. And that has been happening over the years. How do you intend to remedy the equalization fund appropriation act that is approved and ascended to, which is law, where National Treasury, we are into a new financial year and nothing has been credited to equalization fund account yet? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I like it because, Chair, if you look at the screen in your presentation, as far as equalization fund is concerned, you talk about arrears of 147 million. Would you tell this committee where you get the figure of 147 million? Because as far as you're concerned, the arrears are 52 billion. This committee has been singing the song of equalization fund. As a vice chair, I've been on the floor of the House tabling the figures for equalization fund. It's a song that we keep on singing and trying to show that more monies are being added to the counties, and that's not the case. As Senator Eddy has put it, it's been 14 years. The duration was 20 years. It's 6 years down the line. Albert, we've been having this conversation. CEO Guyo, we've been having this conversation. Why are we lying to Kenyans about this money is called equalization fund? Where does this money go? Bona CS, I want to give you the floor. I want you to know the words that members have used. Internalize the discussion, the concerns that members have been raised. Back to you, Waziri.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, once more, I want to agree with you that leaders have been changing positions. You become a senator, sometimes you're a governor, member of the National Assembly, in the executive, like I found myself. Tomorrow I may be a governor, I may come back to Parliament. And I think what should guide us is not where we are. What should guide us is the Constitution and the interests of the people. So if we are guided with that, then it doesn't matter where we find ourselves. Now, to address the questions, starting with the one that you raised, whether, and you have rightly pointed out that your initial figure was 450 billion. The negotiation brought it down to 400 billion. And then you clearly talked about some expenditures that are non-discretionary also at the counties. And I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that non-discretionary expenditures are only at the national government. Even at the counties, there are non-discretionary expenditures, and I agree with you. Payment of salaries are non-discretionary unless you retrench. There are payments to doctors, there are CBS, which had been agreed on. But what I'm saying...
Bonasius, pull the mic closer to you, please.
What I'm saying, the point I'm trying to bring out is that at both levels, we have non-discretionary expenditures, national and county. What we may need to do is both levels, again, should cut on discretionary expenditures. And so as national government, and that is why national government is bearing the biggest share, actually 93%, 0.6 and the counties is bearing 6.3%. We are alive to the fact that counties don't have the capacity or resilience that the national government would have to absorb some of these cuts. And that is why you find that our proposal is to have a lesser cut at the counties and a higher cut at the national government. So just the same way we went for some of the expenditures of the national government to be cut at 50%, like austerity, like traveling, etc. You'll also agree with me, Madam Chair, that counties are also traveling, that there are also recurrent expenditures of austerity at the counties. How I wish that we agree that counties must also, as we cut these expenditures at the national government level, then we also maintain and retain, and the county assemblies should do that, that all the non-discretionary expenditures must still be maintained because you can't change them, but go for the wastages also at the county in terms of certain budget lines that can be cut. Because we live in this country. We see members of county assembly all over the place, also the same as members of National Assembly and in the Senate. We also see county executives traveling across the globe the same way as executive. So as we reign on the executive of the national government to cut on these discretionary expenditures, our proposal as Treasury is that the counties must also be asked to cut on these expenditures. On the delay of disbursement of funds, again, I want to agree with you and say that this is causing a strain in the county governments. They go borrowing very expensive bank loans, and I am not supporting that trajectory. The current predicament, or what we have found ourselves into, maybe it is not the subject of discussion today, but we are alive to it, is that we are not yet done with the legal framework, to be able to transfer funds to the county. I'll tell you, and I tell this committee, that I have already written, because I initially had a clear mind based on the provisions of the PFM regulations, that we could pay up to 50%. But then there is another school of thought that that cannot happen, and that I had to ask for Attorney General's opinion, which later went to the Attorney General on Wednesday last week. It doesn't help Treasury to accumulate and disburse funds to the counties. It puts unnecessary pressure and strain on us. So I want to just be very clear that it is not in the interest of the National Treasury not to disburse funds to the county, or at least as far as I'm concerned. Now, the issues that Honorable Senator Eddy raised. Yes, counties don't have as much flexibility as national government in terms of raising revenue. And I think that is one of the reasons why we made provisions in law that money that has already been shared to the counties should not be reduced in terms of transfer in the event that there is a shortfall in revenue collection. But again, Article 219, my understanding of Article 219, it deals with the transfer of funds. It doesn't deal with the legislation. It doesn't deal with the bills. What this article simply says is that once a budget is passed, once the Division of Revenue Act is passed, the national government must transfer all the shareable revenue to the counties. But it doesn't say that the same legislative organ cannot change the figures. That, to me, I have not seen in this constitution, and I have interacted with this constitution a lot. I do know that you cannot take away the legislative power of Parliament. Parliament can decide to amend. And by the way, I want to be very clear here. The 400 billion was based on a projected revenue of 2.9 trillion. The projected revenue now is 2.6 trillion. So you cannot base the shareable revenue of the county to 2.9 9 trillion when you are dealing with 2.6 trillion. And therefore the House can decide on its wisdom, both houses can decide either to agree to amend downwards the Division of Revenue Act, or the two houses can reject, in which case then 400 billion will be the amount. But the moment Senate and National Assembly amends the shareable revenue, it becomes a law. So that Article 219 would not be violated. That article would only be violated if National Treasury fails to transfer the money that Parliament in its entirety, the two houses, have approved. And I think Honorable Eddie also raised the same issue, that of the non-discretionary lines in the county expenditures, and I think I addressed that. Honorable, the majority whip in the Senate, my friend Boni Alwale, you have talked about the executive giving a decision, or coming up with a decision, and treating it as a legislative decision, and that we don't have power, which is true, to amend, and that the courts will declare whatever we come up with as illegal and maybe unconstitutional. Yes, it is true that when the President declined to assent to the Finance Bill of 2024, he indicated under bullet number 5, I don't think you have this memorandum from the President, although the President is also part of the legislative process, we, in our own wisdom, we made the President part of our legislative process, including on budget matters. But the President said, this is what he said, that Father, I have directed the National Treasury, and I underline the word direct, and I'm asking, who is he directing? He is actually directing the National Treasury, because I would have had a problem if he directed the National Assembly or the Senate, Parliament. But directing National Treasury is perfectly within his powers as the President to immediately submit to Parliament. And the direction or the directive was to submit to Parliament amendments to the Division of Revenue Act 2024. And that is exactly what we have done. We have not reduced any shareable revenue to counties. What we have done is to submit a proposal to the organ that has the power to do so, and that organ is Parliament, to amend the Division of Revenue to reflect the reduced revenues occasioned by the rejected finance bill. So the President was actually directing my office and my ministry to submit to Parliament legislative proposal to amend the law. And that is what we have done. So I don't think we have done anything illegal and unconstitutional to that effect. Parliament has all the powers to deal with this matter. And Honorable Boni, Senator Boni, you have talked about my pet topic as your number 2 issue, and that is the revenue leakages. As a matter of fact, we would not be here today if we mainstreamed proper financial management, prudency in our financial system. And I can't agree with you more. It is not just about the revenue collection, it's even the revenue use, and at both levels of government, national and county. And I'm addressing Senator Boni Alwale, whom I know very well, is passionate about proper use of public funds. Mtetezi, yeah, wanyonge. So I absolutely agree, and that is why today I signed off 560 million funds to help us procure the system that would help us to do E2E procurement beginning January. Because we have been procrastinating and pushing forward this in almost eternity. It must come to a stop. We must do it. Then on the issue of KRA, I again have pronounced myself. The president has pronounced himself on reforms at KRA. The first institutions that I held a meeting with immediately after my swearing in was KRA. And we are in the process of coming up with a system. The system that we have at KRA is over 10 years old. So we must modernize it. We must come up with a new system to collect our taxes, and we must also talk to KRA staff to change the mindset. Let me move a little quickly. Again, here there is the non-discretionary expenditure, which have been occasioned by changes in government policies. That is true, but I think this is a big and wider issue to be dealt with. Some of the decisions that we take, and that is why, under my leadership at the Treasury, I want predictable tax regime. I don't want us to come up with changes in tax policies almost every day, because I think that is what has occasioned largely some of the non-discretionary expenditures that we are encountering in the counties, and even at the national government level, by the way. So I am in agreement that we need to keep our policies predictable so that we can avoid unnecessary disturbance and, let me call it, internal shocks to our economy. Why is it so easy to slash funds for the county government and not NGCDF? Senator Boni and the committee, maybe for your information, we as Treasury proposed to reduce NGCDF, but do we have power to pass the appropriations bill? No. It is passed at the National Assembly. So that is my answer to that. What is my view about NGCDF in the light of court declaring it unconstitutional? With all due respect to the committee, I would request that I don't give my opinion on this, because I'm told this judgment is coming. There's a judgment coming this week. So allow the judiciary to deal with it, Senator Boni, if you don't mind. I don't want to enter into some territories that I may be accused of other things. What do we call it? Where you get into the space of the judiciary, sub judice. Yes. Honorable Nyonka, I think that's a very strong opinion, and I understand him. Yeah, the people of Kisii elected him to protect money, especially money going to counties, that we shouldn't cut it. The only place where I don't agree with him is that we have money. I think this is a language that we must debunk. We don't have money in this country to run to meet our expenditure effectively. What we must do is to make sure that the money that we get more. So we will get more, A, by collecting more, B, by using what we have prudently, and 3, cutting on expenditure. So as it is, if you look at our budget figures, we don't have money. We don't have that money. And I've just demonstrated. We actually have been living a lie as a country. We are borrowing money to meet our recurrent expenditure. By the way, I didn't tell this committee that our current expenditure at the national government level is 400 billion per year. So that money, that expenditure is met from the borrowed funds, a lot of which is at very high interest rates, 18% for domestic borrowing. So we must, and even commercial debt outside there, we borrowed Eurobond just the other day to pay another Eurobond at 11% interest rate. So these are things that we must stop. And the best way to stop it is to accept fiscal consolidation and also to accept expenditure. And not only accept it when that cut is somewhere else. Even when the cut is affecting us, we should accept. Parliament, executive, judiciary, and the counties. All of us must agree and accept a cut. I've been asked by the substantive chair to internalize, and I think the chair, the session chair, you also alluded to this, that I should internalize what the members are saying. If you noticed, I don't know whether I betrayed myself, but I was very, very attentive when each member was speaking, and I was trying to internalize. And by the way, I am completely in agreement. If we had more money, we should give counties even more than 400 billion. The only thing I'm saying is that the present economic situation does not allow us to live normally. We must live a little bit abnormally by cutting our clothes according to our sizes. Each one of us must tighten our belts. And then the substantive chair also said that I am indicating that that money going to the counties is 24.2%, that is not accurate. That is actually less than 15% based on projected revenue. But I think the substantive chair is not talking about what is in the Constitution. He is not quoting the Constitution. The Constitution, the people of Kenya in their own wisdom, decided to peg the 15% to the last audited accounts. So if I go by the Constitution, the provisions of the Constitution, it is 24.2%. And I even had some latitude and used the last revenue collection of 2023-24, it is still 16.6%. But if you now base it on projected revenue, which is a projection anyway, then it comes to 14.4%, which is below 15%. But that is not the Constitution. How do you expect the county government to deal with these expenditures? I think that, again, I have addressed. Finally, the issue of equalization fund has come up. And I'm in agreement that, you see, this fund was supposed to run for a period, is it 20 years? And terminate, or if with the approval of Parliament, then would be extended for a further period. But then, from 2014, when this fund became active, that it should have been operationalized, it faced a number of challenges. That Treasury, first, there were claims that there is no legal framework, then Treasury was maybe not supportive of this. I was a member of the National Assembly during this period, and we kept on asking this question in the Budget Committee and even on the floor of the House. But then where we are is that a lot of this, many of these financial years, there was no appropriation. So as we speak, the fund was not appropriated for many financial years. There is, I think, about 10 billion. I may need to get the figures. I presented the same to IBEC the other day. There's about 10 billion amount or thereabouts, which has been appropriated and has not been disbursed. About 12 billion has been disbursed to the fund. Yeah? 12.4 has been disbursed to the fund. There's an amount that has not been disbursed. That is what we have now released 147 million. You are asking me, Chair, where this 147? It's just a figure, just to be added to demonstrate, I would say, that we are alive to the fact that we need to pay the arrears. But at that rate, I would agree with you, we may not clear the arrears. But we made a commitment to IBEC. I made a commitment to IBEC. I didn't foresee this, so I didn't carry my commitment to IBEC. I think we agreed to settle it in 3 years, if I'm not wrong. I think it was 4 years. It was 4 years. So we are supposed to clear that arrears. So the 147, there is no scientific calculation to it. I think it was meant to round off from 7 point something to 8 billion. 7.87, I think, to 8 billion. Because what should have been provided in this year was 7.87 billion. So there is no scientific method through which we have. So I was not putting it, Honorable Eddie, that that I was showing magnanimity from Treasury. This is a constitutional requirement. So when we do it, it's not something that we are doing to demonstrate that we are doing something unusual or we are being generous to the counties. No. Well, we have just tabulated the shareable revenue, the county equitable share that is going to the counties, and we have indicated where we have the total shareable revenue, we have indicated, we have put the national government, we have put equalization fund. This was just for information purposes, for disclosure. It was not meant really to persuade this committee that that is the main reason why they should accept the reduction of 20 billion. So I think I'll stop there, Chair. I don't know whether there's anything that I've left out unattended to. Thank you.
Just a bit. I wanted to give it to Chair Senator Ali Roba. Are you still online with us? Senator Ali Roba, Chair.
Ask him to adjust his volume.
Sorry?
Ask him to adjust his volume.
Senator Chair, if you could adjust your volume. I wanted to release the team online, maybe. Senator Onyonka? Okay, you can just text the chair to so that we're on the same page. As I give it to members, Honorable Waziri. You've shared the letter from the President and touched on clause 5 or point 5. The first sentence reading that the executive directs your office to do a proposal. The concern that this committee is having keenly, and one of the common denominators that has come out is on the issue of the amounts. The amounts for our CHPs, that is amounting to about 3.1 billion. There's amount to the KIPES, 11.7, NSSF, enhanced contributions. The directive of your proposal, why did you not, for example, suggest a reduction of 1 billion? Why 20 billion? The answer is still not really justifiable. The other concerns you've stated before this committee, the issue of the deaths and all that's fine. But just narrowing it down to the county, the allocation to the county, what wisdom was put in place that justifies the 20? Because it's still not justifiable. Does it mean now we dismiss all the CHPs? Does it mean that we do not adhere to the policies of NSSF that has been set? The issue of the housing levy? What then are we supposed to do? What should the counties do? Should also the counties not borrow? Yet disbursement is always delayed. Should our people at the counties not get their salaries on time? Putting in mind, the same revenue that you collect also comes from the same 47 counties. Why did you not even reduce 1 billion? Why 20 billion? It's still not really coming out that justifies all this. I give it to Senator Boni Alwane.
Thank you, Chair. I have heard you, and I'm persuaded. But I want to appeal to you. When you say there's no money in Kenya, I want you to relate it to the good old writing, which I suspect you have read, the story of the acres of diamonds. If you ask me, give a different person and ask us to leave this republic, you will find that wherever they will have taken us, there'll be net donors to us. There is enough in this country. You said it yourself, Minister, that one of the remedies is to cut down on expenses. What do you want Kenyans to do? if that is the policy. It's in your hands. Cut those expenses in the national government. One, cut expenses in hospitality. The president spoke to it when he addressed it during that difficult time. It is in your hands. Cut expenses on unconstitutional officers. The president spoke to it when he addressed us to bring the country together. Why are we still factoring money for those unconstitutional officers, which include the officers of the First Lady of the President, the First Lady of the Deputy President, the First Lady of the Prime Cabinet Secretary? Why? Why are you spending money on unconstitutional officers? The office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. And why can't you cut expenses on advisors? Ministers have advisors, governors have advisors, Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Deputy President, the President. You promised us as government that we're going to cut it. This will cut expenses. Should our county government suffer and fail because you want to massage the egos of the husbands of the first ladies? Why I came from Kakamega to Nairobi, I did not come here to participate in massaging the egos of some people. I came here to protect the interest of the vulnerable so that we can move our country forward. Make this difficult decision. I remember you found me in Parliament when you came for the first time, and we've worked very well with you. But you remember also, for 5 years, I left you in Parliament. And while I was there mongering and doing my own silly things, including bullfighting, I was not pushing the taxpayer to give me a job to do things. This craze of giving everybody a job, causing the government to fail. When you're in cabinet, my brother, I know Suba, we've been with you there doing rallies. We've eaten fish together with you there. You give me lectures every time we share with you a flight to Kisumu, and I always enjoy. Let's make a difference. There is enough money in Kenya. Debunk that thought.
Proceed, Senator Eddie.
You know, I still see the CS as a former chair of ODM. So I still tread with caution because I don't want my certificate interfered with. But that's on a lighter note. Just to say that I am getting us almost going to a common argument called whataboutism.
Yes.
Whataboutism is a practice where there is conflicting scenarios, then we tend to look at answering, some tough questions, but by saying, yes, it's wrong on my side, but what about you also doing it? You also have the same problem. It doesn't solve the problem. By getting ourselves to a situation whereby we start looking at national government's misgivings, both in terms of raising resources and spending, and then we say that, but there is also discretionary funds in the counties. It becomes problematic, Bwana CS. I find it very problematic. Because the spirit of Article 202, if I get it, there is substantive conversation around raised national revenue. And then there's a conversation in the same article about additional allocation of funds by national government. I want to separate those two spirits with a lot of respect. If we're talking about the national raised revenue, which is what the spirit of Dora has been, then at any given point when the issues of non-discretionary expenses raises in counties, there is no wiggle room around it. It's just simple as that, Bonacius. If we were talking about national additional funds by the national government, then it makes it very easy, because the fundamental question that then becomes is what Senator Tabitha had asked, which I don't want to belabor, which is the question of what is the scientific explanation of the 20 billion? Is it an arbitrary number, and then there's a laundry list that is a wish list that each county will then go and navigate through their discretionary expenses to match that gap? Or is it that is it just a number that came from some inspiration? You know, that's the question that I asked that I don't think has been explored, because it is the bone of contention here that this 20 billion that you want to take from counties, do you want to take it from counties and then let counties go and figure out, the 47 of them, how then they balance the equation of the discretionary, which then that brings a very, very serious whataboutism conversation, which for me, because you are still my wonderful chair, because of the way you sound, you mentored me, I don't want to get, because when I get to it, then it could get us out of the conversation. And I think that that is the question which we have, because if you don't answer it, then we are talking about, despite the number that you have put, and if the base that we are working with is still 2020 to 2021 of the audited financial year, then you will still find that the money that goes to counties, even with the figures that we have presented, is still reducing. When we're talking about strictly shareable revenue, it is constantly reducing, while the national government is constantly increasing. So then the danger with this, as a young person looking at where our country is, then the danger with it is that then, Bonacius, we cannot have a vibrant, holistic conversation around this fiscal consolidation conversation that we need to have as a country. Because then you're going to limit yourself on, we are cutting on our side, we are doing wrong things on our side, you're also doing wrong things on our side, let's have this conversation that way. But if we look at it from functionality of these county governments and what they can and they can't do, then when you meet this committee, because it's a very able committee, and I'm very unhappy today that the chair is not here and Onyonka is not here in person and Faki is not here in person, those are honorable senators, then we would have pushed ourselves in the same partnership conversation we have had with the Treasury. And Albert, you know this, probably could tell the CS, we could have pushed ourselves to have a very hard conversation on where are the gaps in this country that are causing us to have this physical constraint. The first, honestly, is the issue of that deficit at national level. When the CS, the former CS, was sitting on the same seat you are sitting there, and the budget policy statement of the previous year was presented, this particular committee insisted to the CS on some areas where we thought very critically, and some of them President Mbadi has talked to, that the deficit was coming from, that ought to have been considered and be reduced. That conversation is missing on this physical consolidation conversation. Senator Boni has tried to invite you on a conversation on the structural elements of our taxes and our taxation. And I'm actually glad that I saw the other day you were initiating a conversation around it on why we should cut some corporate taxes. But even those tiers of taxes, we invited the Treasury on a conversation on how we should be able to rethink our taxation to allow for more to come on the lieu. That conversation is missing on this fiscal consolidation because we are obsessed with this issue of this 20 billion. We are talking about the issue of leakages and wastage in government, and we have only focused on KRA. But we also know very well that there are procurement officers in this government that constantly are inflating very serious expenses in government to the tune of 300 billion that we're trying to look for in this particular physical consolidation. It is missing. We are talking of the same procurement officers whereby you'll find that even among real estate agents today, if you look at developers who are doing serious buildings and any other development things in this country, they are running single accounts for multiple projects in this county that does not allow for serious money circulation in the economy that can be able to help with this physical consolidation. A number of legislative pieces that could come in this for physical consolidation is missing because we are obsessed with this conversation about whataboutism. Bwana CS, the 20 billion for county government that we're fighting over should not be touched. If we are willing to have a serious conversation about how we approach this physical consolidation with this committee, our chair can guide on that and perhaps we can come into that conversation. But I am not convinced, scientifically, I am not convinced by the National Treasury why this 20 billion must be reduced in the wake of what I've presented clearly, the non-discretionary commitments that half of them, it is not the county government that committed to. Half of them, it is the national government that made the counties commit to. KIPES, the national government made the counties commit to the 11.7 billion we're talking about. The CBA agreement, the national government made the counties commit to. The community health promoters, the national government made the counties commit to. And we cannot go back and tell today community health promoters who have volunteered through sweat and blood for over 5 years in this country. We can't go and tell them that their money is not there because the government does not have money. In a place where leakages are mounting to 300 billion. If we go with a classical case that has been said by the executive that 1 billion is lost in this country every single day. So can we have a sober conversation about a proper approach to physical consolidation that makes sense policy-wide than just being able to come with this arbitrary number, 20 billion from counties?
Thank you so much, Senator Eddie. We are winding up on this. As you respond to this, there's something that you mentioned in your remarks. You talked about that you are in doubt that you can make available to counties 50% of the previous allocation as per our regulation 134. But as per the PS letter dated on 5th of August, reference number IGFR/SG/01B34, the PS had considered that this transfer can be made because it is as far as their salaries and wages are concerned. You've talked about you're waiting for the AG to be able to advise. What is the timeline and why is it again you as a new currency? Yes, Waziri?
Maybe let me start, Chair, with the last issue that you've raised regarding these transfers to the counties. Yes, that was the position of the PS, and I will tell you it was also my position, though not documented anywhere. But I will tell you that opinions are divided on this. If you engage with Parliament, they will tell you a different opinion. What we have done is to seek the proper legal opinion now from the government legal advisor, the Attorney General. And actually today I'd asked for a follow-up to that letter. I am sure by the end of the day I'll know whether AG has acted. If she will have not acted, I will call her personally so that we get off this matter. We have already made a provision for next week to make transfers to counties. We want to make transfers to counties. If the opinion will come positive, we will make the 32 billion thereabout.
Can you just affirm the figure?
Yeah, it's about 32 per month. It's about 32 billion.
Per month?
Yes, per month,
okay.
Monthly. For us to be able to clear. I'm working with 380, by the way. Yeah, on that assumption. So if it will be 400 billion, we'll adjust appropriately. Now, on so that is as far as the transfers are concerned. I just want to be clear that the decision we are taking is legally sound. It's not about my feelings. It's about legal soundness. So I don't want to make a mistake, because once you make the transfer, you've made it. Now, I want to also tell honorable senators that there is no obsession. We are not obsessed with this 20 billion. By the way, the issues that the honorable senators have raised are the same things that I have personally raised and which we have been talking about. When I started, I said I've signed off today procurement worth 560 million. Because really, what is 560 million compared to what we are losing in terms of wastages? To allow us to automate end-to-end, from budgeting to procurement to payment to use of goods, so that we can cut on these unnecessary wastages. We are living in this country. We know that our procurement system is fraught with a lot of corruption in it, and we want to do away with that. So it is not just about KRA. It's about the entire efficiency in government. And I think a question has been raised why we are just the national government.
Chair, point of order.
Yes.
I never want to interfere with you when you're talking, because you're CS.
Which chair? You know, you say point of order, chair, and the CS said yes. Yes.
My apologies. You know, Chair, my apologies. First, I've been chair of a party for over 10 years, and I've recently been chairing Public Accounts Committee. So, having been a chair of almost every day in your life, you tend to forget when someone.
And you see, I don't want Senator Eddy to address you as the chair of ODM, the former chair. Proceed, Senator Eddy.
Chair, the CSA said something that is fundamentally very important, and I want to appreciate it, but I wanted him to give us more information about it. The investment on the E2E system of 560 million. Can you give us what number of impact that would be in terms of what would be the revenue that you'd see this one impacting? You know, if it is implemented, and you say by January it will be on, because you're working on this dollar amendment on this financial year, then it means that it will take root during the time of this financial year. What will that be? What would the cost of that impact on our ordinary revenue that we are projecting, in terms of just how much will it help us save, to the extent that then that can also speak about some of the successes we are seeing here. So that it's not just a number that is thrown, but it's a very important progress that he has talked about. There has to be projection on the impact it's going to have.
Proceed, Waziri.
Yeah, Chair, you'll allow me, if maybe Senator Eddy would want maybe more specifics on how effective this system would be, maybe I would be prepared to come another time to just give empirical evidence.
Okay, proceed.
Yeah, but we are in agreement that if you automate properly our procurement system, we are likely to save a lot of money, running into, in my view, more than 100 billion. It could even be more. So that compared to, that would even help us sort out these cuts that we are putting across to be made. Why 20 billion? You know, Chair, if we were to go 85-15, it would be huge. We would cut a huge amount. So we weighed these options. What do we do? And now you realize that the share is not 85-15, as being proposed in the law. It's actually 93.6 to 6.4. So we are only reducing the share going to the counties by 6. The percentage out of the 316 billion, national government is taking 93.6, and 6.4 is what we are asking. That's our ask that the county government takes. This we are alive to the fact: A, national government has a bigger responsibility in revenue collection, and 2, the counties have, let me say, a lower resilience capacity to absorb any reduced revenue or share of revenue. So if you're asking for a scientific way, I don't think there's any scientific way. We are just looking at how then do we absorb without compromising services at both levels. And I understand clearly that there are some non-discretionary expenditures also at the county level. And Honorable Senator Boni, it is true that Kenya has money, but if you look at the figures that we have, then that money is not there. But we must do something. We must do something to realize our full potential. And that is why we are taking these initiatives to target the tax collector, target expenditure, so that we can mop up more resources. But that will be immediate and long term. What of the, in the long term? What of the immediate term? The immediate term, we are not sure whether we'll realize all these savings, whether we'll realize money because the process of automation takes time, even KRA reforms will take time. So what do we do? And that is why I am calling for the support of this committee as the new CS at the Treasury. In terms of massaging egos, Honorable Boni, you will agree with me, it is also not my duty. I didn't come to this office to massage anybody's ego. So we are not doing this maybe to make some people happy. No. We want to make sure that we do the right things. We must make sure that we do what, if we are successful, as I believe we will, then this country, it will be very comfortable for us to live in this country because we will get services. My concluding remarks.
And I wanted to give you your concluding remarks just shortly after members do their remarks.
I just wanted to say something maybe about this. Overall, Honorable Senators, I just want to plead with you that, yes, I know cutting 20 billion could be a lot to the counties, but why can't we cut it and tell counties that this 20 billion can be found, we can get it from some of the budget lines which accommodates a lot of wastages. We have done it at the national government level. We are cutting hospitality, some even to 100%. We have. Partitioning is no longer there of offices. We have reduced most of these budget lines to 50%. I believe counties can also do it. And if all the 47 counties, by the way, Senators, if you just take a pen and a paper and get the budget lines, take the budget of 47 counties the last year, and look at the recurrent expenditure, the lines that we're talking about, hospitality, transport, domestic, foreign, all these things, taking tea in the offices, fuel for vehicles, which you see are running all over, even weekends. If you just take a pen and reduce those lines for the 47 counties, I'm sure you'll get more than 20 billion.
Thank you, Waziri. At this point, because we are supposed to have another meeting, I'll open the floor for very short, brief remarks. Can start with Senator Eddie, member of ODM.
I think that, not a member of broad-based, but I think that on a serious note, if you can cut some more money from national levels, that would be very good. And Boni, I think Senator Boni has pointed to some areas, including advisors such as David Ndi. But that one is up to the executive to think about. But on a serious note, because my fundamental question has been the question about how does this number come from, and you have advised also that it's not necessarily scientific. It's about looking at the number that you would wish to cut, which you had come with a number that would, see you do a proper physical consolidation. I still believe that fundamentally, Article 219 of the Constitution, because you cannot read it without reading 225 of the Constitution, because there is a subsequential article, which is 225. Then it goes without saying that in an ideal world, this shortfall should only be a function of the national government. But because you have said this is an arbitrary number, CS, bonus CS, I think a bare minimum conversation that could even invite us on the table is then that counties should not at least get less than what they got in the year 2023-2024. I think that's a bare minimum conversation, just because of what you've said, that this number was arbitrary to the extent of trying to balance that fiscal consolidation. Then it will be what you, in your own world, immoral to give counties any money that is less than what they got in 2023, 2024. So 380 is already too low. But that said, I think that we need to have a more vibrant conversation on how do the discretionary and non-discretionary funds look in terms of mapping in all the 47 counties. And I think that is something that us as a Senate should be able to look at as we go into this conversation, because naturally this is going to go to mediation. From the look of things, the Senate is not going to allow this to go low. But other than that, I want to say that I appreciate you coming. And also, this being the first meeting, it's a very hard task, but we have seen a very good partnership between this committee and the Treasury. And of course, the common faces here can attest to that. They can whisper to you over maybe lunch after this. And I'm hoping that the Treasury can continue that proper engagement with this committee in a partnership way than otherwise. Other than that, I thank you so much, and I hope to engage some more in other issues that will come in future.
Thank you so much, Senator Eddy. Senator Boni.
Minister, thank you for coming. Enjoy your lunch.
There is no lunch, Senator Boni. Austerity measures. I don't know if Chair is back online. Chair? Proceed with your remarks.
Okay, very good. Honorable CS, thank you very much for responding to our invitation. And as Senator Eddy said, for this committee, it will be impossible to recommend anything less than what the county government have received the previous financial year, plus some inflationary number. Otherwise, it's been wonderful engaging with you, and we look forward to further engagement. Thank you very much, Honorable CS.
Thank you so much, Senator Roba. I think Senator Nyonka disappeared. I give you the opportunity, Bwana Waziri, to do your brief final remarks.
Yeah, my final remarks. Number one, we are not living in an ideal world. Senator Eddy, if we were, I would not have a problem. But where we are, you remember, this is the first time. And I think I don't know whether there are examples out there where a country loses finance bill or revenue raising measures. So this is the first time, even in the history of this country. So we are living in times that are not so easy. Yes, we will look at additional revenue raising measures, which, again, we are in a democracy, which is accepted by the public, because public participation is important and we must live with that. I just wanted to say, if we manage, and this is a commitment, if we manage through any other revenue raising measure to get more funds, I would propose additional allocation to the county from whether it is 380 or 385, or whichever amount you'll agree to. If it is below 400 billion, I will make sure that any additional revenue that we realize through any additional revenue raising measure then would also benefit the counties. So that is what I would say, and I want to thank you, Chair, for inviting us. It is we have a responsibility to appear before you anytime that you invite us, and we will cooperate Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bwana Waziri. It's been our first engagement since you got into office. We really appreciate as a committee. As I've said earlier in my opening remarks, we've really walked a very good journey with the former CS for finance. And I'm happy that you've also stated before this committee that you promise we shall also have a positive journey. At this point, I'll also request that the AG's response that you shall receive kindly share with the committee, at least within the next 7 days, so that we are on the same page as far as the disbursement is concerned. I'm happy after that response, you've also committed that each month you're going to ensure you disburse 32 billion to the counties. And I'm happy to note in your final remarks that you also believed in finance bill. That was not assented. I'm happy to note that. At this point, the meeting is adjourned.
Sure, can I? That's a very heavy. That's a very weighty. That's a very weighty comment and concluding remark. Whether you are
I thought it
saying
was
that
positive.
I believed in a finance bill that was lost
Yes.
in 2024.
Uh-huh.
I believed in a number of provisions
Okay.
of that bill, but I also didn't believe in a number of provisions.
Okay.
I even proposed amendments to
Okay.
it. So that is my position, and it is not ambiguous. Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you. Thank you so much, Waziri. At this point, the meeting is adjourned until 2:30 because we still have another meeting. Asante sana. Thank you so much. Okay.
I tell you, in the old place.